And good morning, friends. Welcome to the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, if you just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number on the bright side. If you want to purchase longevity products, or even better, if you want to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team, please go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com, or call 866-735-2470 if you want to speak to a real live human being. 866-735-2470 for a one-time $30 fee. You can be in business for yourself. 866-735-2470 if you want more info, or click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. We will be speaking to Dr. Alan Leica in our next segment. Dr. Leica, along with his wife, I believe, Harriet Tinka, have written a book called The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, the 13 Golden Pearls Within. We had Dr. Leica on probably 2 months ago, and we didn't really get to finish up with a lot of stuff he was talking about. He talks about some really, really cool stuff. Dr. Leica is he knows a lot about health, not just from a healthcare professional perspective, but as a patient himself. He has a neural disease, and he's also been very close to death, and he's got a lot of cool things to say about how to live a really beautiful life. That's what the Bright Side's all about, folks. This is not a health program. This is a power program. This is an empowerment program. I believe that knowledge is power. Actually, knowledge is potential power, and action is power. So on this program, we give you the potential for power over your body, over your mind and spirit as well, but over your body especially, because I just love chemistry. And I know some of you guys out there do too. I try not to I try not to dive too deep in the woods, into the weeds, but it's just so darn fascinating. We've been talking about lipopolysaccharides the last couple of days, lipids, fats, the distinction between fats and water. Lipopolysaccharides are one of the hidden causes of disease. Probably even your doctor hasn't heard of lipopolysaccharides, or LPS. I'll just probably call them LPS. LPS is the reason why all disease leads back to the gut. Lipopolysaccharides, the main reason. There are probably other reasons, but the main reason why LPS, why all disease goes back to the gut, is the LPS. LPS, lipopolysaccharides, are the coating of bacteria. They're the membranes of bacteria that live in the gut, good bacteria, bad bacteria. All bacteria have a coating of LPS, or at least the coating is partially made of LPS. So LPS, the immune system, the body's defensive system, the body's inflammatory system is tuned to LPS. When the body's inflammatory or immune system, protective system, defensive system sees LPS in the blood, that's where disease begins. That's where coagulopathy begins. That's where clotting and fibers and what I've been calling for the last 20 years, sticky blood, dirty blood. When I say dirty blood, I'm talking literally dirty blood, because these LPS from bacteria trigger an immune response that causes everything to get clogged up. Fibers start to form, pus, really a kind of microscopic pus starts to form. The same kind of white blood cell construction that's in pus is in your blood. How does that sound? And that's the result of LPS. Excuse me. LPS from bacteria. So say, how the heck do those LPS get in there? Well, they get in there through a leaky gut. That's where leaky gut comes into the picture. You got bacteria in your intestine. They're supposed to be segregated from the blood by the lining. When you break down, when the lining breaks down, which it does over time for almost everybody, certainly everybody who has a chronic disease, that's so powerful what I just said. Everybody who has a chronic disease has an issue with the gut and LPS. LPS is behind it all. There are probably some other things too, but LPS is behind it all, particularly peptides from foods. Peptides from foods, along with LPS, peptides from foods, eggs, for example, and beans and legumes. All of these make it through the gut when you have this condition called leaky gut syndrome. And you don't need to be tested for leaky gut syndrome. You don't need to have somebody, I've had people call me up and they have all of these symptoms. They say, I think I might have leaky gut syndrome. No, I don't think. You have it. You have it. If you have symptoms, you have leaky gut, period. It's the only way things get into the blood. I shouldn't say that. Perhaps you're injecting things intravenously. Now, the chances are if you're injecting things intravenously, you probably have a leaky gut too, but That's the only other way things get into the blood. You inject it through the skin. Vaccines, by the way, can cause many of the same symptoms. Vaccines can cause autoimmune problems. Vaccines can cause many of the same problems that leaky gut does, because you're entering into the bloodstream. This is why vaccines are so stupid. And perhaps there's no good time for a vaccine. Now, it's a tough political question, because there's this kind of balance that you have to make between when you live in a culture and a society, and if something happened to be contagious, but you want to do it rarely. You don't want to just throw out vaccines like the way they're talking about this new vaccine, by the way. Oh, we're going to cure it. I heard this guy say yesterday, vaccine's going to come and it's going to eliminate the pandemic. I thought it was amusing. I sent it to a friend of mine. It was some government doctor, somebody working for the White House. We're going to get a vaccine and we're going to eliminate the pandemic. That's what he said. That's the law. That's the thinking that goes into this idea that we can vaccinate ourselves to health, that we can drug ourselves to health. Vaccinating ourselves to health is just another version of drugging ourselves back to health. Vaccination is inherently, forget the politics of it, doesn't work, doesn't work. It's inherently a bad idea, because you're sticking poison into the blood. That's how you get sick. You stick poison into the blood. And only somebody who doesn't understand this mechanism would support it. I remember I went on a radio show and I talked about vaccinations and I gave my opinion on it. And so, well, sure enough, I got emails from people who said, how can you say that? Blah, blah, blah. You got to have vaccines, polio, and everybody always brings polio up. It's a whole nother scandal right there. But anyway, there's this feeling that vaccines cure, vaccines eliminate problems. They don't. You stick things into your blood, you're playing with fire. Most of the things that get into our blood come in through the digestive system, through the intestine. So what do? Well, for one thing, you could take care of those LPSs. There's a lot of great ways to do that. Those lipopolysaccharides, probiotics, for one thing. Probiotics balance out the bad bacteria. Also, you can use, there's certain phytonutrients, phytosubstances, particularly in something called Boswellia. You may have heard of Boswellia. It's in a lot of arthritis supplements. Boswellia is frankincense. Boswellia or boswellic acids are the active ingredient in frankincense. Frankincense's technical name is Boswellia. Its Latin name is Boswellia serrata. And Boswellia serrata extract contains boswellic acids, which have a very beneficial effect on lipopolysaccharides and their nasty byproducts. Lipopolysaccharides and the stuff that they induce out of the body, the immune factors, tumor necrosis factor, TNF, for example. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back after this. We are back on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. 844-236-6010 is our number. We've got Alan Leica coming up in our next segment. Alan Leica and his book, what the heck is his book here? Golden Pearls, The Secret to Living a Fantastic Life. 13 Golden Pearls. We'll talk to Dr. Leica in our next segment and take your calls. This segment, 844-236-6010. So let's see here. Before we went to break, we were talking about Boswellia. Boswellia serrata is the fruit, I believe, that comes, or I should say the tree that frankincense is derived from. Frankincense is a resin, as I understand it. I'm not sure exactly, but the essential oil has been shown, and Boswellia itself has been shown to inhibit lipopolysaccharides, these LPSs. These LPSs are things most healthcare professionals don't talk about. These LPSs are responsible for pretty much all chronic health challenges, including inflammatory diseases like arthritis, and thus the use of Boswellia serrata, Indian frankincense, or the plant that produces Indian frankincense, as a medicinal aid. It's a LPS inhibitor. Frankincense is pretty interesting stuff. Frankincense is one of those herbal products that you can actually use topically for benefits. The essential oil has actually been shown to help with arthritis. It keeps trying to call me here. for arthritis, for any inflammatory health issues, actually, you can use frankincense, even though it's been studied most for arthritis. Because of its ability to inhibit LPSs, that means you're going to get benefits for the digestive system, you're going to get benefits for asthma, you're going to get benefits for neurological issues, you're going to even get benefits for the kidney and even for the eyes. In fact, you're going to get benefits for any inflammatory health issue. And keep in mind, cancer itself is an LPS issue. Cancer itself is induced by lipopolysaccharides. LPSs will inhibit the body's ability to detoxify itself. Anything you could do to inhibit LPS, the entry of LPSs into the bloodstream, is going to be in your health interest. And by the way, there's an all-time great strategy for inhibiting LPS that we talk about on this program. Inhibiting the entrance of LPS, of bacteria. But the other name for LPS is endotoxin. Endotoxin meaning a toxin inside you. LPS equals endotoxins, and LPSs in the blood equal endotoxemia. Endotoxemia equals dirty blood. So anything you could do to protect yourself from the entrance of LPSs in the bloodstream is going to improve your health, and there's an unbelievably valuable strategy that doesn't even involve supplementation and doesn't even involve money. In fact, you will save money by taking advantage of this great anti-LPS strategy. You know what it's called? It's called intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is one of the all-time great LPS inhibiting strategies, which just makes sense. This is why I always say, this is why I've always talked about fasting and intermittent fasting as an important health tool for people who are dealing with chronic degenerative diseases. And this is one of the reasons why fasting and intermittent fasting, and for that matter, calorie restriction, improve disease states. Anything you could do to slow down the entrance of stuff into the bloodstream, anything you do to deactivate or relax the digestive system is going to be in your health interest, especially if you're dealing with an inflammatory disease, a long-term chronic disease. So anti-LPS strategies are a critical part of restoring the body back to balance if you're dealing with any long-term chronic degenerative disease, and we will be talking about that in coming Brightside episodes. Time to hit the phones, and let's go to Robert again. Robert in Nevada. Hey, Robert.
Hey, let's finish this thing up.
Did I confuse you yesterday? Was that confusing at all?
You always do, Ben, but what the hell? No, just kidding. You broke it down pretty good. Real quick.
Good.
So, viruses are inert. They are not alive.
No, they're information. They're letters. Remember we said they're letters to the words that make up genetic information. Go ahead.
The letters. But they don't breathe.
Let me stop there. They're made up of letters. They're words.
Okay.
The genome itself has meaning, like a book has meaning, like a paragraph or a sentence has meaning. The genome has meaning, and that meaning, just like in any language, has to be made up of building blocks. That's what language is about. It's about building blocks that are strung together to make meaning. All language. That's all language is. Chemistry is a language. Genetics is a biological language. It's where all the biology is. And the nucleotides in a virus represent the letters in a word. And then there's about 15,000 nucleotides, 20,000, 30,000, in that order of magnitude, compared to, by the way, about 3 billion in the human genome. The human genome is hundreds of thousands of times more complicated than a virus. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the question is, why then do we say that sunlight, UV light, can stop viruses or kill viruses?
Because the virus, that's a great question. The nucleotide has to be segregated from the environment. Listen to what I'm going to say here, okay? The nucleotide has to be segregated from the environment, otherwise it would dissolve into the environment, like salt dissolves in water. If you put salt in water, it dissolves. But if you could protect that salt with a coating, it wouldn't dissolve. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, a virus would dissolve into the environment because the environment is just information. There's just information everywhere. So in order to segregate it from the environment, it has to have a capsule. It's surrounded with a protein capsule. So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay, that protein capsule is like a membrane, like a shell. That shell is broken up by UV light, by UVC especially, I think, but ultraviolet light in general. Also, ultraviolet light in general, I should say, can deactivate nucleotides anyway because it oxidizes them. Nucleotides are molecules. Molecules are broken down by light. That's why you got to be careful when you're out in the sun. Now you have protective mechanism in the skin, but a nucleotide doesn't. It's just a molecule, just a bunch of chemicals. If you look at, you know what a molecule. When I say a molecule, I'm talking about like C6H2O1. Like those strings. Yeah, like it's like you've seen them. It's really interesting because we talk about molecules a lot, but they're really hard to picture or image. And so I try to use the analogy of Tinker Toys. Tinker Toys are strung together with various pieces, and that's what a molecule is, has various pieces. In Tinker Toys, you have 6 pieces or 8 pieces, a small amount, but in molecules, you have the whole periodic table. You've got 122 different pieces, and they're all strung together in different ways. Most of the stuff in the body is from 6 different pieces: carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. They call them chenops. And the chenops are the 6 basic building blocks that make up all the chemistry in the body. And there's, I should say all, make up 99%. There's other things like iron and selenium and zinc and little things like that make up very tiny, tiny, tiny fractions, but it's all just strung together like Tinker Toys, or it's all just stuck together like Tinker Toys are stuck together. Those sticking togethers are inherently unstable, and they break down quickly. In the body, they're protected, but out in the environment, they break down very quickly. So, and by the way, a molecule is ridiculously small. If you have a cup of water, okay, which is made up of H2O molecules, everybody's heard H2O. What they really mean is H2O molecules. A cup of water is made up of H2O molecules. In that 8-ounce cup of water, there are more molecules by orders of magnitude than there are stars in the known universe. In that cup of water. Do you get how small a molecule is now? What's that?
I said, is that Carl Sagan?
I don't remember. I did the math myself. Believe it or not, I did the math myself. There's 7 steps.
Believe it.
All right. We'll be back after this. Thanks, Robert. Have a good morning. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Alan Leica coming up in our next segment. We're back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central, and 24/7 on the archive page at benfuchsarchives.com. We have 9 years of daily health programs, all with the search engine, thanks to Peter in the UK. That's benfuchsarchives.com. We also have news stories and blog posts and videos, lots of good health information at criticalhealthnews.com, pharmacistben.com, and brightsideben.com. And don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products, all formulated in my compounding pharmacy for dealing with wounds and acne and eczema and post-surgical scarring, for preventing post-surgical scarring. Truth Skin Health products are all prescription products made over the counter, because healing is beauty, health is beauty, and cosmetics should have the same power as medicine, the way I look at it anyway. Never any preservatives, fragrances, fillers, waxes, emulsifiers, silicone, water, vegetable oil, nothing your skin doesn't need or doesn't want in any of our Truth Skin Health products. TruthTreatments.com and our 1,300 plus 4- and 5-star reviews can be looked at or perused at truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com. Okay, I'm looking forward to speaking to our guest. Dr. Alan Leica knows of what he speaks. He's approaches health as a healthcare professional, and he's also approaches health as a patient historically. We'll talk to Dr. Alan Leica about his book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, The 13 Golden Pearls Within. Please welcome to the bright side, Dr. Leica. Hello, Dr. Leica.
Hello, Ben. How are you today?
So nice to talk to you again. I was I can't tell you how inspiring your last visit was, and we didn't get to talk about anywhere near all the stuff I wanted to talk about. So, but just real briefly, what's that?
There's just a plethora of stuff in my book, and for everybody that wants to listen to me today. So I'm hoping they're all ready for it.
Okay, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life, The 13 Golden Pearls Within. I want to dive into it. I want to talk about some of these pearls, but real briefly, tell us your personal story, because it's really fascinating.
Well, let me start at the beginning. You know, I was walking in Disneyland with my dear wife and my youngest daughter, and my wife turned to me and said, "What's wrong with you?" And, you know, for once in my life, I hadn't said anything wrong. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't even thought anything wrong. So I was perplexed. I said to her, "What do you mean, what's wrong with me?" She said, "Listen to your foot. It's flapping." Here, I said, "That's the stupidest thing on the planet. What do you mean my foot's flapping?" Well, she said, "Listen to your foot." Well, my right foot had suddenly and mysteriously developed a right foot drop. It was slapping on the pavement with each step I was taking. So, dear, I said, I don't know what's wrong. She said, did you have a stroke? I said, dear, you're a doctor. I'm a doctor. This is not how strokes present. You fall on the pavement. You say weird words. This is not a stroke. Well, she said, when you get back, you better get this checked out. And Ben, if you've been in a marriage for as long as I have, you know when your wife says this, she means business. You better get checked out. So I got back to Canada, and I saw dozens, even hundreds of doctors. I had CAT scans. I had brain scans. I had PET scans. And you know what they saw at the end of the day? Absolutely nothing. And you know what doctors do when they find absolutely nothing?
They give you an antidepressant.
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, they say you're crazy and give you an antidepressant, or they do more tests. So
right.
I had $1 billion worth of tests. I had tests that didn't even exist then. And I ended up on the doorstep of a world-leading neurologist. This was the guy that knew everything about the brain and the nervous system, and he was going to tell me what's wrong. So I walked in and I said, hi. He said, hi. You better be sitting down when I tell you this. I say, why? What's wrong? I've got a dropped right foot. He said, no, you don't. You have ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Wow.
Get your affairs in order. In 6 months, you're going to be dead.
Wow.
Wow. So I shot back at him. Can you prove this diagnosis? He said, of course, on autopsy.
Wow. So how did that land?
Well, it landed like this. I shot back at him. I'm not going to die to prove you wrong. So I got even with him. But you know, when you go through something like this, Ben, you go through a phase where you go through death and dying. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote a beautiful book where she told us the stages you go through.
Yeah.
You go through anger. You become very angry. You'll bite the head off nails. You know what I know about anger. You go through bargaining. Oh, God, please let this happen. I'll do anything if you let this happen. You go through denial. Not a river
in Egypt.
Not a river in Egypt. It's basically, I don't have anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. I can do anything. But you know your heart of hearts, there is something wrong because your right foot isn't working properly.
How old were you, Dr. Leica? How old were you?
You know, this happened in 2003. So I was at the heart of my career. I was about 40. And
wow.
I was a world-class cosmetic doctor. I was at everything. But then I went through depression, Deb. You know, everything was black. Everything was me. You know, the world was, I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It was awful.
Wow.
So I went to my wife and said, wife, what do I have? She said, dear, I haven't got the faintest idea. But you're smart. You can figure it out. So, thanks, dear. I can figure it out. I've tried every doctor on the planet. What am I going to do next? Well, back in 2003, something new was invented. You might have heard of it then. It's called the Internet. Ever hear of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, right. You live on it. You breathe on it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's where everything's happening these days. But in 2003, it was very primitive. So I had some friends that knew how to get me on it, and they had a dial-on connection. You know what a dial-on connection is, don't you? It's when a phone attaches to another phone, and it goes, ria, for 50 minutes or so, and finally you connect. And you connect with a single party on the other end. Well, I knew of a doctor in Colorado Springs, Colorado, by the name of David Martz. And I looked him up, and it was fascinating. He had a disease very similar to mine. He had a disease that put him on his deathbed within months. And he couldn't move. He could barely speak. And a doctor from Texas that loved him dearly came up to say goodbye to him. And he looked at David and said, David, there's something wrong with this picture. I don't think you have ALS. I don't think you have Lou Gehrig's disease. David whispered, what do I have? The doctor from Texas says, I think you have chronic Lyme's disease. I think you're a bit of a tick. And the tick caused this neurological illness that's mimicking ALS. And he said, I'll start you on treatment and see if you're right. And there a miracle happened. David was like Lazarus arising from the dead.
What did he give you, Doc? What did he give you?
He was given an antibiotic at that time, and he was given some other medications that helped to suppress the activity that the bug in his system was causing him. I can't remember which one I was put on at that time, but I think it was called ceftriaxone.
Okay, and so how soon did you start to recover? Almost right away, or what was the process?
Let me talk about my story. I'm still talking about.
I got to take a break, unfortunately.
Okay,
we got to take
that, and I'll go to finish David's story on, and I'll be on my story within a few minutes.
Okay, we'll take a commercial break. We've got Dr. Alan Leica. We'll be back on the bright side with more of Dr. Leica right after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side. We're talking to Dr. Alan Leica, author of The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. Discover the 13 golden pearls within. His website is dralanleica.com. Is that right? dralanleica.com.
That's
right?
correct.
Dr. Allen, and that's ALLENLYKA.com. So, yeah, finish up your story, and then let's dive into the book.
Sure. So I got in touch with David. I flew down to Colorado Springs, Colorado. I got off the plane, and there was David on the tarmac to meet me. He said, Dr. Leica, I'm so glad to see you. This is before 9/11. So we were able to get together. He drove up right to the plane, and there he was to meet me. I was surprised. He took me, and we went to his house, and we talked for hours. He said, Dr. Leica, I think history is repeating itself. I think you have chronic Lyme's disease, not ALS, not Lou Gehrig's disease. And he started me on treatment. He started me on ceftriaxone. And
wow.
Within a short period of time, I became very well and better. But,
I'm sorry, Dr. Leica. So why aren't you just saying everybody should be tested for Lyme's disease and everybody should take antibiotics? Why did you get into writing about a book about golden pearls?
Well, let's go through that because, Lyme's disease is a very difficult disease, and there isn't one test that diagnoses. It mimics many other diseases. So many diseases that Lyme's disease looks like, and many diseases look like Lyme's disease. So it really means that you have to see a doctor that's cognizant of Lyme's disease and work it out in your case. So it's not a very easy go. Now, why did I start writing a book? Well, when you go through something like this, Ben, your life changes. You start to put the pieces together. You start to look around, and you wonder if you live the best life you can. You ask yourself three primary questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I really matter? So you start answering those questions. And, one thing I started to do was to give back to society. And I sponsored an event at the YWCA in Edmonton called the Women of Distinction event, where I honored women in our society for the wonderful things they had done. Women do not get the kudos that they should, even now. So I thought this was a good place to start. So partnering with YWCA, I put on this gala. There were thousands of people there. And one lady that applied for the award was Harriet Tinka. She's the co-author of my book. And she came to me at that event and said, Dr. Leica, can I buy you lunch? We've got to talk about her story. Because Harriet was unique. She was a runway model in New York, a beautiful lady. But she was kidnapped, stabbed, and left for dead. So she decided to give back. And so she was thinking of writing a book, too. So we started writing this book called The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life about the commonalities in our life. And we called those golden pearls, the things that everybody needs to make their life better.
And that's the 13 Golden Pearls book. That thus was born the 13 Golden Pearls book. All right, so we don't have a whole bunch of time, but you got there's so many nuggets in here. Pearls is a great word. Let me just dive right in. Golden Pearl number one is love, okay? Is that number one, like literally number one? Or is it just there no intended or no specific order?
Well, we put these in specific order. We start with golden pearl number 1, love, and we end in golden pearl number 13, empowerment. But we threw in another golden pearl on fear, because everybody's dealing with fear in their lives right now.
Yeah.
So we thought it was very necessary for people to help heal their lives. So
how do you deal with... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm going to dive right in. How do you deal with fear? You're right. I think fear is behind everything. Everything that we don't like about life, you find fear behind it. And so I think the most important question is, how do you deal with fear?
Well, it's very difficult. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear is actually an eponym that stands for false expectation, hearing real. That was something taught to me by Jack Canfield.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was something taught to me by Jack Canfield, the writer of Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah.
Helped me write this book, too.
Yeah, that's it. It's interesting you say that, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I got excited when you said that, because I was thinking about this thing called the cytokine storm, right? And I always thought that the fear response manifests, the immune system is kind of like a manifestation of the fear response. And we die from fear, literally. So when you say the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, from a biochemical perspective, the fear response kills us.
Well, you see, the fear is an overempowerment. You see, the fear comes about because when we were primitive cavemen, we needed fear to overcome the animals, the dinosaurs who were in our existence. So we needed fear because that gave us energy. It gave us things to run fast. It gave us sight that could do better. And yes, if the fear mechanism is constantly in your life, it does kill you.
It wakes you up in the morning.
Well, it causes heart attacks. It causes you to have stress reactions. It causes you to have panic reactions. So it's not a healthy thing.
Well, here's the deal. We all know that, and we all feel the effects of it, but it's so fundamental, like you say. How do you get out of it? Can you override it? And where does love fit into the equation when it comes to overriding fear?
Well, when it comes to overriding it, I think you got to get into the driver's seat and start realizing it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. And that's so important. Love is so fundamental. All of us are the products of our mother's love, who cradled her in her arms and brought us to her nipple. And such a beautiful thing, she'd smile at us. And as a tiny baby, you'd smile back. So you had a bond there, that inseparable bond of a mother and a child. So this is where love starts. But it also comes into your relationships, because you cannot live a good life without love. And you must love others, and you must love your family, and you must love your society. I see so much hate now out there, and it's not healthy.
Have you ever heard of Darwin's lost theory of love?
I don't think so, but tell me.
That's a second book that nobody talks about. He wrote a second book about he said survival of the fittest. That was the first part of his theory. But the second part of his theory is that man can evolve through love. And it's a really cool idea. Nobody talks about his second book. And there's a book about his second book called Darwin's Lost Theory of Love, which is really cool.
I'll have to look that up, because that sounds fascinating.
Isn't it fascinating? Because we have this survival of the fittest mentality where we believe that human beings are designed based on Darwinism, social Darwinism even, that we're designed to live that way. But Darwin actually wrote a second book where he talked about higher evolution, evolving past the mammalian territorial thing that we all got going on.
Well,
is that interesting?
Yes. Ben, how much time do we have left?
We're running out. So if you could just dive right in that. Yeah.
I want to give all your listeners a free digital copy of my book. I want them to experience it. And so anybody out there, all they have to do is write my assistant at Leica, LYCKA.ca. CAs are ending for hours up in Canada. So assistant at Leica.ca, and you can get a free copy of my book, The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life.
That's awesome. And it's a great book.
It's without cost or obligation, but I want everybody in the world to have a copy of this so they can heal their lives, especially during this COVID epidemic.
Yeah, we need it now more than ever. All right, so we only have about a minute. What's your favorite one? What's your favorite of the 13 Golden Pearls? Do you have a favorite?
I think it's enthusiasm, and I have a great story for it, but in a minute I don't think I'll do it justice. It's the story of Fred the carpenter, who was burnt out and tired, and at the end of the day said he was quitting. His boss said, "Can you do one more thing for me before you quit?" He said, "Of course." He said, "Build me one more house." So Fred dragged his butt to work every day. He hated every day of it. He finally was done. A miracle happened. The house passed inspection. So he went to his boss, threw the keys on the boss desk and said, "I'm done." Boss said, "Just wait a minute. I've got a special gift for you. These keys are for your house. I want you to live in it with all the enthusiasm you gave me all your life."
Wow, that's a great story. So Golden Pearl number 12, enthusiasm, that's your favorite? That's the one you connect with the most?
That's the one I connect with the most. But, all the pearls are special. The pearls are wonderful. I would like your whole audience to get a copy of this. Write assistant@leica.ca and get a copy right now.
Assistant@leica.ca for a free copy. A free copy of the book, did you say? Or a free copy of chapter 1? A free copy of the book. I thought you said chapter 1. Well, the free copy of the book, that's an awesome offer.
Copy. I want them to have all my words.
That's awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Dr. Leica. Thanks for coming on the bright side, Dr. Leica. Dr. Alan Leica and his co-author is Harriet Tinka. The book is The Secrets to Living a Fantastic Life. Discover the 13 Golden Pearls Within. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side, friends. I am Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.